My father passed away while saving someone when I was 15 years old. After that, I went to live with the Henry family. With Henry's tacit consent, I became a silent little follower behind him. Until the beginning of senior year in high school, I accidentally knocked over the preserved egg congy he bought for a beautiful transfer student. It was the first time Henry got angry with me. "Shirley, your father saved me. But the Henry family has also taken you in for 3 years. I don't owe you anything." He walked away quickly, holding the bright and charming girl's hand. I lowered my head in silence, cleaned up the mess on the floor, and then took back the college application form and quietly crossed out University A on it. Since then, we have owed nothing to each other. After changing my application preference in the office, I slowly walked back to the classroom with my exercise books in my arms. The morning self-study had just ended, and all the classmates were quietly lying on their desks to catch up on sleep. In the corner of the last row, Henry was lowering his head and concentrating on helping Jasmine with her physics. The sunlight outside the window shone into the branches and fell on the sides of their faces that were very close to each other. It was quiet and beautiful. My eyes passed over Jasmine's pretty and flamboyant face and landed on a wet corner of her clothes. I had accidentally knocked over her breakfast just now, and Henry had accompanied her to the bathroom to clean up. Thinking of his figure walking away quickly, I felt the skin on my hand that had been scalded by the preserved egg congy aching faintly again. Click. When I was handing out the exercise books, someone secretly tripped me, and the stack of books scattered all over the floor immediately. The noise caught the attention of the people in the corner. Henry, who had been gently explaining the questions, looked up at me and then lowered his head again. However, his buddies beside him started to jeer. "Henry, your little follower seems to want to come to you for physics tutoring too." By senior year, I was doing well in all other subjects except physics, which had always been my weak point. Before Jasmine transferred to our school, Henry would tutor me in physics every day after the morning self-study. Immediately, the quiet classroom was filled with the teasing laughter of everyone. I turned a deaf ear to it and just silently squatted on the ground to continue picking up the exercise books. Perhaps thinking that I was in a rather awkward situation while picking them up, Henry frowned and was about to get up to help. Just at that moment, Jasmine, who had been biting the pen and thinking hard, suddenly took his arm. She seemed to notice me just then and gave me a bright and flamboyant smile. "Classmate Shirley, I'm sorry. I'm not good at physics. And the teacher has put us in the same physics study group. First come, first served. I can't give him up to you." After saying that, Jasmine playfully stuck out her tongue, and a faint blush appeared on her face. Her pretty face bared with her natural and graceful expression was truly a world apart from my taciturn self. "Teacher Henry, I think I've got some ideas. Could you continue explaining? Please?" "Okay." Henry sat back beside her and turned his head away, not looking at me anymore, which was tantamount to acquiescing to what she said. The warm sunlight fell on them again, as if separating me in the shadow of the desk from them into different worlds. The knowledge points he explained became deeper and deeper, and Jasmine couldn't quite understand them. The pretty girl frowned, bit the cap of her pen, and simply propped her chin up, tilting her head and looking straight at him. "Henry, your eyelashes are so long. Concentrate." Henry still had a cold and indifferent look on his face and seemed unmoved by her flirting. All right. She mumbled and quietly moved even closer to him. I watched this beautiful scene for a few seconds while holding the exercise books, and then quietly turned around and left. First come, first served. But it was clearly Henry who once whispered in my ear, "Surely, having fulfilled my obsession, from now on, could you only have eyes for me?" There were few people in the classroom during the lunch break. I was having lunch while doing physics problems. Beside me was another packed lunchbox. The sweet and sour spare ribs and marinated chicken legs inside had already gone cold. I had waited for a long time to buy them. However, Jaslyn had just transferred to our school and wasn't used to the food in the cafeteria of No. 1 middle school. So Henry accompanied her to eat at a restaurant outside. Today's food was a bit too salty, and I gradually became distracted while doing the problems. "Why are you crying?" So cowardly. A pair of slender hands tapped on my desk. And then a pack of tissues and a box of strawberry cake appeared. Looking up, I saw that person take out a medal from his crossbody bag and put it on my desk. The gold medal of the national physics competition. Oscar. You're back? I took the tissues and wiped the tears on my face randomly. Feeling a bit surprised. Oscar was my deskmate in sophomore year and transferred to the physics competition class in senior year. In the first half of the year, he left school to participate in a physics training camp at Huadai University. And I seldom saw him after that. Today, Oscar was wearing a black thin hoodie, with the sleeves rolled up to his elbows, revealing the muscle lines of his forearms a little bit. He seemed to have become a bit more mature. If I didn't come back, you'd be bullied to death by Henry. I'll tutor you in physics starting from today. Oscar pulled out the seat beside me and sat down on his own. The exercise book that had been lying beside my hand was taken away by him. With his well-defined fingers, he picked up a red pen and started marking it quickly. Hearing Henry's name, I sniffled gloomily again. No. It's okay. Looking at the increasing number of red crosses on the exercise book, I unconsciously felt a bit ashamed and wanted to refuse. But Oscar was quick and decisive. After marking it, he immediately took the draft paper and started explaining the problems. You used the formula wrongly for this problem. His voice was deep, yet clear and powerful. Different from Henry's step-by-step style. Oscar's thinking was very leaping when explaining physics. Soon, let out a law sorry. The draft paper was filled with his elegant notes. I couldn't care less about refusing and quickly concentrated to follow his train of thought. It wasn't until I had corrected the wrong problems and came to my senses that I saw Oscar was already enjoying the box of sweet and sour spare ribs. I tried hard to recall and felt that I wasn't that close to him. I didn't know why. Maybe he was just enthusiastic about helping classmates. That night after the evening self-study, I stood in the bicycle shed waiting for Henry. I didn't intend to follow him home. I just left my key with him when I went out in the morning. From a distance, I saw Henry in the night. He was walking slowly with one hand in his pocket, and beside him was the bouncing Jasmine. She raised her pretty face, her eyes bright, and was acting coquettish. I've made progress in physics today. Teacher Henry. You should reward me with an ice cream. Henry had a cold face, but still nodded helplessly. He seemed to have little resistance to girls who knew how to act coquettish. Last year during the autumn outing, the whole class went hiking on the nearby Tiger Leaping Mountain. I was exhausted and collapsed halfway up the mountain. At that time, Henry squatted in front of me, rubbed my head. Shirley, just act coquettish. If you do, I'll carry you up. However, he waited for a long time, but I just stammered and remained expressionless without saying anything. Since my father died on duty, I seldom smiled, let alone acted coquettish. He smiled helplessly and pulled me onto his back with a jerk. You got the better of me. It was foggy and cold on the mountain that day, but Henry's back was warm and reliable, which dispelled the uneasiness in my heart. Great. Teacher Henry. I like you the most. The evening breeze brought the girl's delighted giggle, and the words that seemed like a confession in a hazy way. When I came to my senses, Henry had already taken out the key and had been waiting for a long time. Go home by yourself. Don't say anything strange to my mom. Jasmine noticed my figure and hid behind Henry a bit shyly. But when she peeked out quietly, she showed a slightly hostile smile. Okay. I took the key, tugged at my backpack and turned around to leave. When I returned to the Henry family, Henry's mother had cooked sweet soup for supper. She considerately took my school bag and then looked behind me. Finally, her eyes landed on the faint blush at the corner of my eye. Shirley, why are you crying? Why did you come back by yourself today? Where's Henry? Did he bully you? If you've been wronged, tell Auntie. I won't let him off. Henry's mother was a very gentle woman and had always been kind to me. When my father died in the line of duty after saving Henry from the gangsters, it was Henry's mother who decided to take me back to the Henry family. It's okay, Auntie Henry. I just haven't been doing well in my studies recently. Sitting at the dining table, I slowly sipped the sweet soup mouthful by mouthful. The tapioca balls were glutinous and soft, driving away all the chill in my heart. Meeting the woman's worried eyes, I raised the corners of my mouth and smiled. Thinking of what Henry said during the day about not owing me anything anymore, I hesitated for a long time before speaking. Auntie Henry, I'd like to apply for accommodation at school. There are only a few months left before the college entrance examination. Living on campus will give me more time to review. Hearing my request to leave home, Auntie Henry was a bit startled at first. She didn't think too much about it, but just opened the calendar on her phone and carefully counted the days. Although a bit reluctant, for the sake of my studies, she still agreed. Auntie Henry smiled and gently stroked my head with her soft hand. Your scores have already reached the admission line. There's no problem for you to go to University A with Henry. Don't put so much pressure on yourself. During the period of filling out the application forms, Henry would intentionally or unintentionally mention his application preference every day. It was only after he was sure that I also filled in University A that he felt relieved. Remembering that I changed my application preference in the office during the day, I silently swallowed a mouthful of sweet soup. Well, Auntie Henry, could you please not tell Henry about my accommodation for now? Under the light, I looked extremely serious, which surprised Auntie Henry a bit. But she just thought that we had quarreled and were having a little tiff. After all, in the past 3 years, she had clearly seen how much her son liked me. All right. If that naughty boy Henry knew about it, he definitely wouldn't be willing to let you go. As it was getting late, she took the remaining bowl of sweet soup and went back to the kitchen. Immediately after that came the sound of her calling Henry to urge him to come home. The next day when we went out, Henry and I tacitly didn't say a word to each other. Downstairs, Henry rode his bicycle and stopped a few meters away from me. Jasmine sprained her ankle last night. I'm going to give her a ride. You go by yourself. He rarely explained a few sentences, for fear that I would pester him to take me on the back seat of his bicycle. In response, I just nodded expressionlessly. Henry wasn't used to my indifference and frowned, but it seemed that he thought of something and quickly put aside this awkward emotion. From now on, we should leave home at different times. Some classmates have moved to the nearby neighborhood. They might misunderstand if they see us. I don't want strange rumors to spread in the class. As he was talking, he didn't know what came to his mind, and a faint smile appeared on his lips. What was he thinking about? It must be Jasmine's pouting face when she was jealous, which was so vivid and pretty. Okay. I nodded and left without looking back. I didn't tell Henry that there would be no possibility of us being misunderstood when going out together in the future, because from now on, I wouldn't live here anymore. The early spring was still chilly, and there were few pedestrians on the road in the morning. I tightened the sweater inside my school uniform and walked slowly towards the school. Suddenly, a warm big hand landed on my head, brushing away the mist on my hair. I was startled and looked up to find that it was Oscar. He was nearly 1.9 meters tall and still looked very tall even when he was propping his bicycle with one leg. The morning sun shone on him, and his eyebrows and eyes were so clear and handsome that he seemed to be glowing. Two steaming Arugiamas were stuffed into my hands, and he patted the back seat of the bicycle and invited me to get on. Thank you, but I've already eaten. I was going to be late for school. I thanked him softly and still climbed onto the back seat. Hold them for me. I haven't had breakfast yet. Oscar had broad shoulders that blocked the cold wind all the way. I unzipped my school bag, stuffed the Arugiamas into it, and then hugged the school bag tightly in my arms. Oscar, you've been recommended for admission. Why are you still coming to school? Yesterday, just after the people in their competition class came back, the school put up banners and sent out good news announcements. Oscar won the national gold medal in physics and had already been recommended for admission to the top physics major at Huadai University, the top institution in the country. After all, we're childhood sweethearts. I have to come to support you so that you won't be bullied. Besides, you're so bad at physics. What would you do without me? He knew about me and Henry, and he also seemed to know what had happened after the transfer student showed up, but my thoughts were caught by the phrase childhood sweethearts. He said, childhood sweethearts? Did we count as that? I met Oscar when I was in the second year of junior high school. One day after school, I went to the back alley of the school to buy fried skewers to eat, but I encountered Oscar being blocked by several hooligans in the alley and beaten up. He was beaten half to death, with blood all over his face. I immediately cried and called my father, who was on duty at the police station, asking him to come and save people. It was almost dusk, and there was a bit of cold rain at that time. I knelt beside Oscar and held an umbrella for him, not daring to touch him, and was so scared that I kept crying. Hey, having still lead session. Wake up. Don't die. Oscar, whose hand was hurt, woke up in a daze and looked up to see me. You're pressing on my hand. Why are you crying? So cowardly. Later, I learned that Oscar's parents were both very outstanding professors and often went abroad for research exchanges. So he had a lot of pocket money. And those hooligans came to extort money from him. To repay the favor, Oscar treated me to fried skewers for a long time. Later, he was taken abroad by his family to live, and didn't come back until the second semester of senior high school. Well, in this way, we could be considered childhood sweethearts, I guess. When we stepped into the school, the free morning self-study had just begun. I held my physics exercise book and stood in the corridor, quietly listening to Oscar explaining the problems. He stood at the windy place, blocking the cold wind blowing from the corridor for me. Suddenly, someone shouted loudly at the quiet entrance. Henry, your little tail is about to be snatched away. All the classmates stopped their morning self-study, poked their heads out of the window curiously, and burst into rustling laughter. The problem-solving was interrupted, and I subconsciously looked up. At the other end of the corridor, Henry and Jasmine arrived late. Perhaps it was too cold, so Jasmine Kokafasli put her hand into Henry's pocket to warm herself. The two of them were very close, looking extremely ambiguous. Henry also heard his friend's teasing words and immediately frowned and refuted. She has nothing to do with me. As he said that, his eyes coldly fell on the hands of Oscar and me that accidentally touched each other, and then quickly moved away. Jasmine beside him tugged at the corner of his clothes, and the two of them walked into the classroom side by side. I didn't feel anything in my heart. I withdrew my gaze and wanted to continue doing the problems. When I lowered my head, I just realized that my hand was resting on Oscar's hand at some point. His body was always warm, and his hands were hot all year round, which was very warm, as if my palm had been burned. I quickly withdrew it, stammering to cover up my inner nervousness. Cough. Let's do the problems. Do the problems. Oscar smiled and didn't say anything, but the words he wrote on the draft paper became a bit more lively. It was no wonder that he won the gold medal in physics. When he explained the problems, his train of thought was very clear. I was unconsciously fascinated by it and didn't even notice when Henry approached. He pulled me away, looked at Oscar with extremely vigilant and unfriendly eyes, then pinched the bridge of his nose and looked down at me helplessly. Shirley, don't make trouble. I'll teach Jasmine first and then come to teach you. I'll set aside half an hour every day to teach you physics. Is that okay? Henry seemed to be compromising, with a somewhat superior tone. He was waiting for me to give in, waiting for me to obediently agree as before and say, Henry, you're so nice. However, I just broke free from his hand and took 2 steps back. No need. I pointed at Oscar again. He teaches better than you. After being rejected in public, Henry's face immediately turned cold, and there was a bit of sharpness in his words. As you like. He took long strides to go back to the classroom. After walking a few steps, he stopped and said coldly, Since you like learning physics so much, you don't have to come to my birthday party tonight. Today was Henry's birthday, and I used to accompany him to celebrate his birthday every year. I blinked my eyes and nodded. Oh. Henry's face became even uglier, and he quickly walked back to his seat. The people watching the show beside him immediately continued to tease with a playful smile. The little tail has been shaken off. That person was Henry's friend. He always unscrupulously embarrassed me in public. What made me even sadder was that Henry had never stopped him. Ouch. It hurts. It hurts. When I came back to my senses in the midst of the howls, Oscar had already walked to the window. He reached into the window, grabbed that person by the collar, and dragged most of his body out forcefully. Your mouth is so dirty. If you do it again, I don't mind sewing it up for you. In my bright eyes, Oscar slapped that person's face hard. Apologize. Yes. I'm sorry. Amid the laughter of everyone, that person blushed and stammered an apology. Oscar let go and walked back to me, and became that good student look again. Thank you, Oscar. I looked up at him and whispered my thanks, unable to suppress the smile on my lips. He bent down in front of me, pretending to be deep. To repay me, you should queue up to get sweet and sour spare ribs for me at noon today. He got a bit close, and his warm breath fell on my face. I pushed his chest in a fluster and opened up some distance. Okay. Okay. When the evening self-study ended, I received a message from Henry's mother. Shirley, are you going to celebrate that naughty boy's birthday today? Don't come back too late. Remember to put on your coat as it's cold. I tapped on the keyboard and finally replied with an okay. After sending the message, I scrolled through Henry's WeChat moments. There was a photo of two hands tightly holding each other, with a caption, "You're on the left, and I'm right beside you." This was a song that Henry liked. Before Jasmine came, he always liked to hum it in my ear. He didn't come to the evening self-study today, and both of the back seats were empty. It turned out that he went to celebrate his 18th birthday with Jasmine. Quite a few people liked the post in his WeChat moments. Everyone had seen it. Some friends who didn't know the situation thought that the person he was holding hands with was me, and gave their blessings ostentatiously. After 3 years of hard work, you finally caught your little tail. Your secret love has come true. Congratulations. That comment disappeared in less than a second and was immediately deleted by Henry. I turned off my phone without any extra reaction. No likes. No comments. No blessings. Since he said the words, "I don't owe you," we had already become strangers. Shirley. Walking out of the school gate, I saw Oscar pushing his bicycle and standing under the street lamp waiting at me from a distance. He stood lazily, and the dim light cast a small shadow on his brow bone. Suddenly, I noticed that there was a small red mole at the corner of Oscar's smiling eyes. I covered my chest and suddenly felt that there was a butterfly flapping its wings and flying high inside. Oscar. I walked slowly towards him and greeted him. Today is my birthday. My family is abroad. For the sake of my teaching you physics problems, accompany me to celebrate my birthday. Oscar casually took my school bag and hung it on his shoulder, pretending to mention it casually. I nodded and skillfully sat on the back seat of his bicycle. Sure. I took Oscar to a ramen restaurant that I liked very much. Before my father passed away, he would take me here to play every year on my birthday. There was a doll lottery machine near the entrance of the store. You could get one lottery draw for every bowl of ramen you ate here. The first prize was a huge ramen doll. The store served 2 bowls of big soy sauce tonkatsu ramen. Oscar and I sat side by side and buried our heads in eating the hot noodles seriously. The soft-boiled eggs were tender, and the pork bones were fatty but not greasy. Here's a toast to you, Oscar. Happy birthday to you. After finishing all the chewy thick noodles, I raised the barley tea in my hand and clinked glasses with him. Oscar drank the tea seriously with a gulp, which counted as accepting my blessing. Then my wish for this year is that your physics will improve and you can get into the university you like. He smiled and made a wish to the rain and all in the corner piously. I took out the loyalty card from my school uniform pocket and handed it to the store owner. There were 20 points on it. This was originally prepared for Henry. In the past 2 years, I would come here to eat ramen with him on his birthday every year. Unfortunately, fortunately, there was no luck. I couldn't draw that longed for rhyme and all for 2 consecutive years. Thinking of this, I looked up at Oscar. At this time, he was lying on the glass of the doll lottery machine, smiling foolishly. This year was different. This year it was Oscar. Surely we would draw it, right? When we came out of the ramen restaurant, Oscar was holding the huge Raymond doll, with a big smile on his face. Noticing that I was looking at him, he coughed a few times and tried hard to suppress the smile at the corners of his lips. A woolen scarf with a faint body temperature was wrapped around my neck. Shirley, I'm really happy on this birthday. His eyes were hot and serious, and I just felt my cheeks getting a little hot. Well, as long as you're happy. I buried my face in the scarf, secretly hiding the smile at the corners of my mouth. Oscar dropped me off downstairs at the Henry family's residence, and we agreed that he would pick me up tomorrow morning. I took a deep breath and patted my cheeks. As I approached the shadows of the corridor, a strong smell of cigarette smoke wafted over. I frowned and walked around it, but was grabbed by Henry. There were cigarette butts all over the ground at his feet, and there was still an unwiped lipstick mark on the corner of his lips. A pink one. Where's my birthday present? Henry irritably ran his hand through his hair and suddenly pinned me against the wall. Let me go. In the darkness, the distance between the two of us was too close. His breath, carrying an unpleasant smell of cigarette smoke, fell on my ear. This kind of contact at an intimate distance made me feel a bit sick. I struggled hard, but couldn't break free. Shirley, where's my birthday present? There was also a faint smell of alcohol on him, and he seemed a bit drunk. I hugged my school bag to my chest, trying to keep some distance between us. Henry's eyes fell on the Rame and all cocaine on the side of my bag, and his eyes lit up slightly. I knew it. You went to the Raymond shop. Did you draw a doll for me? Didn't you draw the Raymond doll again this year? It doesn't matter. I like the cocaine too. His tone suddenly became gentle, and he raised his hand, trying to take off the cocaine, taking advantage of his momentary lapse of vigilance. I pushed him hard and shoved him into another corner, and I quickly ran out of the building and stood under the bright streetlight. There were some cardboard boxes piled up in the corner. Henry staggered a few times and almost tripped over them. But he wasn't angry. He just looked at me with pitiful eyes like a poor little puppy. I know you're not happy that I celebrated my birthday with Jasmine tonight. She asked me to stay overnight with her, but I didn't agree. There are still 2 hours left until 12 o'clock. Spend this time with me again. Again. There was that haughty look in his eyes, as if his kindness to me was just charity. Henry walked over in a few steps, easily grabbed my arm and tried to drag me outside the community. He was so strong that his grip made my arm ache faintly. Even more frightening was the look in his eyes, full of a strong sense of aggression, as if he wanted to devour me alive. You're hurting me. Henry. Let go. I slapped his hand as hard as I could and struggled frantically, with tears welling up in my eyes. Shirley, do you like me? Before we had walked a few steps, Henry, who hadn't finished speaking, was suddenly kicked hard. He flew past me like a kite with its string out and then fell to the ground in a mess, groaning in pain. Before I could figure out what was going on, my back was already against torn chest. A big hand gently put its arm around my shoulder, and a physics exercise book appeared under the light. Why are you crying? So cowardly. Oscar stuffed the physics exercise book into my school bag, and he raised his leg and gave Henry 2 solid kicks on his back. Didn't you hear her tell you to let go? Didn't you hear her say you were hurting her? This was the first time I had seen Oscar so angry. His thin lips were pursed into a straight line, and his whole body was trembling unconsciously. But the strength of his hand on my shoulder was still gentle. After being kicked a few times, Henry sobered up a lot from his drunken state. His eyes fell on the back of Oscar's bicycle, where a huge Rame and all was tied. And his eyes fell on my neck, where there was a scarf that matched Oscar's coat. His eyes immediately turned red. Damn it, Oscar. How dare you touch my girl? Henry got angry and punched Oscar hard in the face. I immediately rushed forward without a second thought and pushed him into the cold pool behind me. After thrashing around in the water for a while, Henry was completely sober. Remembering what had happened between him and me just now, his face suddenly looked a bit ugly. Oscar, are you okay? Does it hurt? I helped Oscar to the streetlight and carefully examined the wound on his face, holding his face in my hands. There was a bit of skin broken on his lips, slightly swollen and red. Hiss. Oscar gasped in pain with a hissing sound. When he saw the tears that were about to fall from my eyes, he held them back. "It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt. Don't cry." He raised his hand and gently pinched my cheek, pretending to be fierce. "I'm okay. Go upstairs. Your mom will be worried if you're late." While talking, I followed his gaze and saw Henry's mother looking around on the balcony upstairs. She leaned forward as if she was very worried and waved at me. "Remember to apply some medicine when you get home. See you tomorrow, Oscar." "See you tomorrow." Under the streetltwide. Oscar ruffled my hair. Then patted the head of the Rame and all on the back seat of his bike. Finally, heading filled my eye. He gave Henry a fierce glare and rode away. When I went upstairs, Henry followed me a few steps behind. At first, there was complete silence between us. Then he caught up and explained softly. "I was just in a hurry for a moment. I was afraid he would bully you." I had a blank expression and didn't look at him again. "The one who has always bullied me is you, Henry." He paused for a moment, and there was a hint of frustration and uneasiness in his tone. "I'm sorry. Shirley. Look. My hand is also scratched and it hurts all over my body." In the past, whenever Henry got hurt anywhere, I would nervously look for medicine for him. It seemed that he liked the way I was so worried about him that I would cry. So he would pretend to be in more pain to make me worry even more. And I would shed even more tears because of that. Back then, he probably regarded my tears as trophies. "Look. There's a girl who secretly likes me. And she's even so distressed that she cries for me." Huh. I entered the house and ignored him, walking straight back to my room. Unexpectedly, Henry followed me without any hesitation and was about to come in. There wasn't much left in the room actually. My school's accommodation application had been approved. In the past 2 days, Henry's mother and I had almost packed all the luggage. And I could move to school tomorrow. From now on, I wouldn't have to see Henry anymore. So I didn't want him to enter the room. Didn't want him to find out. And didn't want to get into a tussle with him. "You can't come in." I stopped him and quickly moved to close the door. Henry frowned, raised his foot and firmly pushed against the crack of the door, trying to push it open by force. "Why can't I come in? This is my home. Not yours. Why can't I come in?" Hearing this, I lowered my head and suddenly felt half of my body turn cold. Yeah. This was Henry's home. After I relaxed my strength, the door was suddenly pushed open by Henry. I fell to the floor, hitting the back of my head hard. And suddenly everything was spinning around me. But Henry still didn't manage to get in. As soon as he pushed the door open, he was dragged away angrily by Henry's mother. After locking the door, I sat blankly on the bare floor and touched the swollen bump on the back of my head. The suitcase beside the bed hadn't been closed yet, and Henry's mother had stuffed a small stack of photos in one corner of it. I crawled over and looked at them one by one carefully. All the photos of Henry and me were torn to pieces and thrown into the trash can. From then on, I had nothing to do with Henry anymore. My father's life was exchanged for my 3 years in the Henry family. It was said that we didn't owe each other anything. But this debt was still hard to settle. The next day was the weekend. Henry had left home early in the morning when I got up. Henry's mother knocked on the door and came in. She gently hugged me, who was sitting by the bed in a daze. "Our Shirley has been wronged in this family. Auntie wants to say sorry to you." "Don't take those nonsense words Henry said last night to heart. Auntie's home will always be your home too." Her embrace was soft, carrying the fragrance of orchids. Soothing my restless heart, I hugged her tightly, and tears started falling down again. Even though I disliked Henry in my heart, I still liked Henry's mother very much. "I'm not wronged. Henry's mother. I like you the most." The two of us went downstairs and had a steaming hot breakfast. Then pulled our luggage and went out the door. Before we reached the girls' dormitory building, we saw Oscar pleading with the dormitory supervisor from a distance. "Auntie, you're so kind. Please. I just want to help my friend move some things, and then I'll come down." He was also holding a cup of hot soy milk and a portion of soup dumplings in his hand and handed them to the dormitory supervisor Auntie. Today had fulfilled my obsession. Oscar's hair was neatly combed, and his school uniform was neatly ironed, which was quite rare. "Oscar, Over here. I waved at him and briefly introduced him to Henry's mother. Oscar, who usually talked a lot, was unusually quiet. When greeting Henry's mother, he bowed deeply. Then he carried the suitcase and rushed upstairs. After several trips back and forth, Henry's mother gradually changed from being surprised at first to understanding. And then to feeling deeply sorry. Humph. He has better taste than that brat Henry. That night, Henry, who hadn't attended evening self-study for several consecutive days, suddenly burst in. His face was gloomy, and he tightly grasped my wrist. Shirley, are you trying to avoid me? Who allowed you to live in the dormitory? Come back with me. The silence in the classroom was broken. The classmates who had been buried in their studies looked up in surprise. What a scene of pulling and tugging. So embarrassing. I struggled but couldn't break free. So I had to compromise and get up to take him to a corridor with fewer people. You're disturbing everyone's study. The light in the corner was a bit dim, casting a hazy glow on people. Henry suddenly pinned me against the wall, with an emotion that was almost palpable in his eyes. His voice was slightly hoarse as he took out from his pocket those photos that had been torn to pieces, but were carefully glued back together by him one by one. Did you choose to live in the dormitory because you don't like me dating Jasmine? We're not together. That WeChat Moments boss was just a joke. I'll take you to school from now on. And I'll help you with physics. Shirley, patting forcedly. Will you only look at me from now on? Okay? There was a hint of pleading and a bit of grievance in those usually cold and distant eyes. What an act. I pursed my lips and secretly complained in my heart. After complaining, I realized that I was a bit like Oscar. Henry, who you're with has nothing to do with me. Living in the dormitory is my own business and has nothing to do with you either. The time for evening self-study is precious. Please don't disturb my study. Taking advantage of his being still immersed in his affectionate act, I pushed him hard and broke free from his grip. I took a few steps back and stood in the bright light, seriously, clearly and concisely stating my thoughts. But Henry didn't believe me. He bent down, lowered his head and patiently continued to coax me. Shirley, don't be angry. You know that the person I've always liked is. However, before he could finish speaking, a phone call came in. Henry frowned and hung up directly. But the person on the phone was a bit persistent. Henry, they're blocking me at the entrance of the alley. I'm so scared. On the other end of the phone was Jasmine's crying voice. So delicate and soft that it could melt people's hearts. Sure enough, Henry's face changed drastically. And he hurriedly asked for the address. Shirley, I'll come back to pick you up after school. Then we'll go home together. Wait for me. I'll come back. The evening wind started to blow. I stood in the soft light and watched Henry walk step by step into the darkness. Look, we were still people from two different worlds in the end. After getting rid of his entanglement, I let out a long sigh of relief. Just as I was about to go back to study, the bell for the end of class rang. Remembering that I had an appointment with Oscar to meet at the back fence, I rushed over there in a hurry. I arrived early. There weren't many people at the usually lively fence area yet. Oscar's tall figure was quite conspicuous, and I found him without much effort. When he saw me, he climbed in with his backpack in one hand and leaning against the wall with the other. The school rules prohibit climbing over the wall. I looked around nervously, afraid of being caught by the school's disciplinary team. Oscar walked to the nearby pavilion, took out a steaming late-night snack from his backpack. He poured out the wontons, added the sauce, laid out the small green vegetables, poached eggs and barbecued pork. Don't worry. They'll deduct my points. Come and eat quickly. He sat on the stone bench, broke the chopsticks, and waited for me to come over expectantly like showing off a treasure. He was a bit like a dog raised by the security guard uncle, and seemed even cuter than usual. Taking a bite. The crab roll wontons were so fresh that the delicious taste lingered in my mouth. I felt a warm feeling rising in my stomach, and my heart gradually became hot too. Didn't you say you came to bring me the physics notes? While eating the small wontons, I opened the densely written notes he brought over. There were some fresh ink marks on them, and it wasn't hard to tell that they had been newly added. Oscar took the notebook and took out a red pen from his pocket to circle and mark on it. I was afraid you'd be hungry. Learning physics is so tiring. Eat while I explain some points to you. There's a project starting in the physics laboratory of Huada University. I got the quota for observation and learning. And I have to leave early tomorrow morning. These notes cover the key points for the college entrance examination. I'll quickly explain some particularly important ones to you. Don't worry. You can video call me every day. And I'll teach you online. The effect will be the same. One side of the pavilion faced the wind outlet. Oscar turned his body a bit to block the wind for me. Under the slightly dim street lamp, his chattering voice gradually spread out. And the physics formulas on the notebook seemed to jump around randomly. I seemed to be a bit distracted. Because of Oscar. Taking advantage of his not noticing. I patted my cheeks and sobered up again. Thank you, Oscar. He paused for a moment. And his eyes suddenly became bright. You're welcome. When you get admitted to Huada University, just queue up to get food for me every day. When mentioning Huada University, the smile on Oscar's lips couldn't be suppressed no matter what. Coincidentally, the class monitor who happened to pass by curiously came over. And then showed an indescribable expression. It's so strange. You're smiling like you have a big and happy family just by doing a physics problem. Despite his complaints, the class monitor still took out a physics quiz paper from his pocket on the spot and asked for advice earnestly. I silently made way for him, went to the side to digest the knowledge points while holding the notes, and took a bite of the small wontons from time to time. After crossing out University A on the application form that day, I actually failed in Huada University. Who knows? Maybe it was predestined. Perhaps it was fate. After saying goodbye to Oscar, I went back to the classroom with the class monitor while discussing the problems. After packing up my things, I suddenly received several photos sent by Jasmine on my mobile phone. The first one showed Henry kneeling on the ground and applying medicine to the wound on her thigh. The second one showed beer bottles scattered all over the floor and messy clothes. The third one was. It was an eyesore. Blocked. Somehow. I remember Henry's particularly solemn words when we parted, wait for me. I'll come back. So pretentious. Blocked him too. The third mock joint examination went very smoothly. My physics had improved a lot these days. And the key points in Oscar's notes were really accurate. During the lunch break, I was reviewing the test papers alone in the classroom when suddenly there was the sound of the door being locked from outside. A hot and humid kiss unexpectedly landed on my neck, like a poisonous snake slowly wriggling. My body froze for a moment. And then I picked up the thermos cup on the desk and smashed it with all my strength at the person behind me. It's me, Ewevaro a low sigh. Surely. Henry covered his forehead, with a bit of pain showing on his face. There was no one around. The door was locked. And we couldn't climb out of the window. I tried hard to suppress the panic in my heart and took out a sharp art knife from the drawer and held it tightly in my hand. Henry, are you crazy? Seeing my extremely defensive look, a bitter smile appeared on Henry's lips. His clear and cold eyebrows and eyes dimmed a little. His shoulders drooped powerlessly. And he looked extremely depressed. Surely, hadn't so felt me. I'm wrong. That night, Jasmine was blocked by hooligans at the entrance of the alley. I went to help her to make things clear to her. I told her that the person I liked was you. Only then did I realize that I liked you so much. Can you like me again? Let's go to University A together. There are still many years for us. The corners of his eyes turned red. His voice was hoarse. And there was a bit of choking in his voice when he said the last part. In the 3 years since we knew each other, I had never seen Henry lose his composure like this. But so what? All that about being blocked by hooligans at the entrance of the alley was fake. I had seen with my own eyes that Jasmine was smoking with those people at the back door of the school. But that had nothing to do with me. I calmly took out my mobile phone, sneered, and found Jasmine's WeChat in the block list. Henry, your love is too cheap. The moment he saw the unbearable pictures all over the screen, Henry's face instantly turned pale. He wanted to deny it in a panic, but the words seemed extremely difficult to say when they reached his throat. I didn't know. I really didn't know that she took those pictures. That night, Jasmine cried. She begged me to stay with her once. And then she would let go. I drank some wine and got drunk. So? All the explanations seemed so feeble. Henry silently lowered his head. After a long while, he finally summoned up the courage and carefully asked tentatively, "Shirley, do I have no chance anymore?" When the lunch break ended, the door was opened from the outside. I held the exercise book and hurried past him without looking at him again. After the college entrance examination, I found a part-time job that provided accommodation and meals. And didn't go back to Henry's family again. Henry's mother came to see me from time to time. And we didn't become estranged because of the distance. On the day when I went back to school to get the admission notice, I saw Henry again under the big tree at the school gate. He was standing there quietly with a crutch, holding the admission notice of University A in his hand. Not long ago, I learned from Henry's mother that Henry was blocked by hooligans in the alley and his leg was fractured 2 days before the college entrance examination. But he still gritted his teeth and insisted on taking the college entrance examination. He had lost a lot of weight these days. And he looked haggard. Even when the sunlight shone on his face through the tree branches, he still looked gloomy. The moment he saw me, a hint of joy appeared on Henry's face. "Shirley, you can't get rid of me. I have the patience for a lifetime. When we go to University A, we'll start over. If 1 year doesn't work, then 2 years. If 2 years don't work, then 3 years. No matter how many years it takes, I'll wait for you." His eyes were a little red. And his gaze was filled with strong paranoia and possessiveness. A sticky plaster that couldn't be shaken off. I frowned and took out the admission notice of Huadai University from my bag and showed it to him. "Henry, don't bother me anymore. Your family took me in for 3 years. But my father saved your life. I've never owed you anything." Henry trembled all over. And his gaze was dejected and desperate. Everything seemed to have gone back to the beginning. There are ferry crossings in front of and behind the mountain. And each goes his own way. When I walked out of the school gate, Oscar had been waiting for a long time. The boy was slinging his school bag across his body, wearing a black short-sleeved shirt with the collar slightly open. He was holding an umbrella in one hand and a big bunch of purple irises in the other. The flowers were in full bloom, blooming brightly, just like his love that couldn't be hidden and spilled out secretly. The flowers fell into my arms, bringing a bit of coolness with moisture. I was surprised to find that there was actually a small pink love letter hidden in the bouquet. It was a bit too innocent. Oscar was extremely nervous and didn't dare to look at me. He stared straight ahead and muttered something. Why does the latecomer get ahead? Because the latecomer fights and strives for it. After hearing it clearly, I couldn't help laughing and quietly held his hand. Oscar, you were the first one. After all, we're childhood sweethearts. After being beaten up at the entrance of the alley in the second year of junior high school, Oscar ate at my home for a while. Every day after school, he would use his pocket money to buy me fried skewers. When I got tired of fried skewers, it became ice cream. When I got tired of ice cream, it became small cakes. He was always happy to use his pocket money to feed me until my father found out and forbade it. On the night before he went abroad, he secretly ran to my home to bring me a strawberry cake and kept talking nonstop. "Shirley, I'll save my pocket money and let you spend it all in the future. Shirley, you should also apply to Huadai University. Please. Then we'll be childhood sweethearts. You can't forget me. Don't underestimate the bond between us. Shirley, Hanningfeld, wait for me. I'll come back." My boyfriend had a deceased first love. He remembered all of her preferences and refused to delete even one photo of her. "Why are you competing with a dead person?" Every time I brought it up, he would snap at me like this. Until that day I couldn't bear it anymore. Why should he have a deceased first love while I couldn't? So I found the man whom I had ruthlessly abandoned 3 years ago. That I tugged at his tie, wrapped it around his neck, and forced him to lift his chin. I'm in desperate need of a deceased ex-boyfriend. So, please, just die for me. The man's suit was in disarray as he looked up at me. "Aliyah. I'm your brother. Ryan was my 11th boyfriend. My brother was satisfied with the previous 10 boyfriends but not with him. That's why I had been with him the longest. It was 2 o'clock in the morning. Ryan called me to get up and go to the bar to pick him up. I swear I had never coaxed a man like this in my whole life. When I pushed open the door of the private room with his coat in my arms, I heard his buddies burst out laughing. Damn it. Sister-in-law really comes whenever she's called, huh? You're something, Ryan. Why are you still thinking about your ex-girlfriend? Hurry up and throw yourself into sister-in-law's arms. I saw him from a distance. He covered a glass with one hand, propped his chin with the other, and looked at me with his flirtatious peach blossom eyes. He chuckled and said, "Yeah. She's strict with me." Ryan's slender fingers flicked across several glass cups in front of him. "Come here. Drink them all for me." He ordered me with a muffled and lazy tone. I sighed and looked down at him. "I had a fever this morning and took some cephalosporins at noon. I can't drink." The eyes of his buddies all fell on us. Ryan just propped his chin and looked at me for a while. Then he took my hand and made me sit on his lap. He pressed his forehead against mine and murmured softly, "Aliyah. You're not being good." He had mistaken me for his ex-girlfriend again. His buddies all said that I looked 7 or 8 points like Ryan's ex-girlfriend. I guess that was the reason why he was with me. It was quite absurd. However, the reason why I was with him was even more shocking. 2 or 3 of his buddies came up to persuade us. If sister-in-law doesn't want to drink, then don't drink. Haha, Ryan, it's not shameful to give in to sister-in-law. I couldn't tell whether these people were fanning the flames or trying to persuade. Sure enough, Ryan scratched the palm of my wrist and said, "Be good. Don't make me lose face." Originally, I didn't plan to join them in their antics, but out of the corner of my eye, coincidentally, I caught a glimpse of a figure flashing by outside the door. I took a deep breath. With my eyes downcast, I picked up the wine bottle and started drinking. I drank 3 big bottles. As a result, I was throwing up violently in the toilet. It said that drinking damages the stomach. I thought to myself that when my brother was raising me, he often had social engagements outside. Why didn't it hurt him? In the corridor, Ryan was being supported by his buddies, walking unsteadily with red eyes. "Aliyah, don't go. Please don't go. I miss you so much. I dream about you all the time. How can I live without you?" I silently complained in my heart that not only were you living just fine, but you were also with me who looked so much like her. I didn't want to come out of the toilet for the time being, because I saw a figure in the mirror. When Ryan and his buddies walked away, I wiped the corner of my mouth, turned around, and said disdainfully, "Brother, you're such a pervert. Are you a voyeur?" Jason was neatly dressed. Even his buttons were fastened meticulously. On the contrary, I had opened the collar of my clothes wide just to make it easier to vomit. But it didn't matter. He was used to seeing me in a mess. "Why are you still drinking so late?" His voice was calm, as if he were an elder talking to a younger one. "What about you? Why are you still at the bar so late? Who are you planning to keep as a mistress?" My brother wasn't that kind of person. I knew that. But I just liked to hurt his feelings. The more it hurt him, the happier I was. Unfortunately, most of the time, he remained as calm as an old dog. He walked up to me, frowned, and lifted my chin. There were thin calluses on his fingertips, which made me feel sensitive and uncomfortable. I heard him order in an old-fashioned way, "Don't abuse your body." I sneered. "Is it any of your business? Even if I cut my wrists with a knife, it's my own business. Even if I jump off this building, it has nothing to do with you." Only after I said that did I notice that his expression had completely changed. "Oh no." He pressed my head and pushed me in front of the wash basin. The cold water rushed onto my face with a splash. "What are you doing?" He loosened his grip, and I staggered back several steps, glaring at him with red eyes. "Are you fucking crazy, to make you sober up?" He lowered his eyes, and his finger bones brushed across my cheek. It was sticky and uncomfortable at all. Then he smiled. Jason looked really good when he smiled, but I didn't have the time to appreciate it now. "Don't swear." My heart was pounding violently, and the dizziness made me feel like I wanted to vomit out all my bile. I grabbed his shoulder. Brother, I took cephalosporins at noon. And I drank alcohol in the evening. Will I be okay? I didn't know what happened after that. All I knew was that he held me very tightly. He was in a panic. A person who hadn't been in a hurry for ages seemed a bit flustered. Before I passed out, I thought. Stop calling my name, brother. It's really annoying when you call me. I was raised by Jason. When we were in the orphanage, the dean said we should have a sense of family, so he became my brother. However, our orphanage wasn't a good place, Aliyah. You should know how to be grateful and sacrifice yourself. It's normal to sacrifice yourself to the dean after becoming an adult. Look, your elder brothers and sisters all did this. You should do the same, okay? Under the influence of such an environment, my values were quite distorted. One night in the third year of junior high school, I sneaked into Jason's room. I pushed him awake. I took the tie of the suit he wore for the new student ceremony speech and blindfolded him with it. Then I took the bow-knot ribbon on my teddy bear doll and tied his wrists with it. My brother was kneeling on the bed. His eyes were covered by the cloth, and his wrists were tied behind his back. He looked up at me, and the outline of his Adam's apple was so clear. He asked, "What do you want to do?" I said, "I want to make you cry." I clearly saw his Adam's apple move as he said, "Aliyah, let me take you away." So Jason took me and ran away. To let me go to school. He found a way to change our relationship, and he became my legal guardian. My brother in the legal sense. At that time, he took me everywhere to hide from the people sent by the dean. He was recommended to a top university because of his excellent grades, but he dropped out of school in the last semester of senior high school. I didn't want to study anymore either. He earned money to support me, and I also wanted to earn money to support him. After hearing what I said, Jason looked up from my monthly exam paper. He asked me softly, "Aliyah, do you want to date me?" I was stunned there, and then I heard him continue, "Get into a good university, and I'll be your boyfriend." With just this one sentence, I studied hard throughout my senior year of high school. And I really got into a good university. Jason really became my boyfriend. But later, I dumped him. So now he can only be my brother. Aliyah, are you awake? I seem to have had a long dream about my brother. When I woke up, Ryan was sitting beside my hospital bed, smiling like a fox. "Not calling me Aliyah anymore?" I asked with a cold smile. "Sorry, baby. I drank too much last night. But don't worry. Besides my ex-girlfriend, you're the one I love the most." He was really straightforward about being a scumbag. I weakly took out my phone. Jason had sent me a text message, followed by a string of bank card numbers. It seemed that he meant for me to transfer the medical expenses to him. It was 781 yuan in total. That old bastard. Yesterday he held me so tightly and called my name so many times. He really didn't want to spare me a penny for the medical expenses. The president of Chenan Pharmaceutical Group was exposed to have a private meeting with the daughter of the Yo-Yo family. It is reported that the two have a very close relationship in private and are planning to get engaged recently. I was boredly fiddling with the financial gossip news on my phone. I sent a text message to question my brother, who was the president of Chenan Pharmaceutical Group. Where did my sister-in-law come from? The busy president finally found time to reply with a question mark after 5 hours. Then he sent 2 more sentences. "What does it have to do with you? Pay me back the money quickly." Oh, I almost forgot. Actually, I almost broke up with Jason. On the day I said I was leaving him, he got really angry for the first time. "Aliyah, you can break up with me, but you can't leave me. I must ensure that you're safe. I don't know what I'll do if you disappear. Aliyah, don't make your brother go crazy, okay? Be good, okay?" But I still dumped him. At that time, Jason was penniless and couldn't find me at all. I had my reasons for leaving him. I had no choice but to do that at that time. I still remembered that one afternoon, his friend grabbed my wrist and shouted at me, "Aliyah, don't hold your brother back, okay?" Later, his career took off. I shamelessly came back to him. So it's reasonable that he has such a bad attitude towards me now, right? I transferred 1,000 yuan to him. He replied with another question mark. Keep the extra money. It's a tip for you. I felt like I was giving extra money to a prostitute. Jason surely didn't realize that he had accepted my money, but after an hour, my phone vibrated twice. A tip for me? What, do you want to keep your brother as a gigolo? I really want to keep him as my gigolo. I want to see my brother cry. Unfortunately, it's always him who makes me see in the senior year of high school. He was slashed on the back by the people sent by the dean. I held him in my arms and cried so hard that the kind aunt in the hospital corridor gave up her hospital bed for him. Ryan folded 999 paper cranes for me. Get well soon. He put these things along with a bunch of carnations beside my hospital bed. I sat on the hospital bed and rubbed his head, letting him put shoes on for me. Ryan, did you fold 999 paper cranes in one night? Did your hands spark from rubbing so much? He smiled and looked up at me. He never lied to me. 997 of them were folded for Alaya before. But she left before I could finish folding them all. You look so much like her. Accept them on her behalf for me. I really can't understand Ryan. If there appeared a person who looked exactly like my brother in this world, I would only want to kill that person. Jason must be unique in this world. I stroked his soft hair. I said to him in my heart, fortunately, you don't look like my brother. Who does she think she is? Ryan is only with her because she looks like his ex-girlfriend. Can she compare to even one finger of Elias? This was the birthday party that Ryan's friends insisted on throwing for me. But they were secretly gossiping about me behind my back. Among the group of people who were close to Ryan, the only sister-in-law they recognized in their hearts was that Alaya. Ryan came back from outside, sat beside me, and reached out to pinch the back of my neck. Baby, is it the first time so many people are celebrating your birthday? Are you happy? Perhaps Ryan hasn't realized until now that his friends are full of malice towards me. These people definitely can't come up with anything good. Hee, sister-in-law, happy birthday. One of his buddies rushed to the front of the stage. We specially prepared a birthday short film for sister-in-law. Wish you and my Ryan a long and happy life together. The private room became dark, and the short film on the screen started playing, but as it played, it became more and more wrong. The male lead in the short film was indeed Ryan, but the female lead wasn't me. It was his ex-girlfriend, that girl named Alaya. I watched that lively girl record the bits and pieces of her time with Ryan in the video. Ryan, come here quickly. Do you like this bunch of flowers? Ryan, don't be reluctant to look at the camera. Ryan, will we be together? Forever? Ryan, who had always been so lazy, was willing to follow her around properly. At his current girlfriend's birthday party, they were playing memories of his ex-girlfriend. Ryan's friends were all muttering softly, but no one came forward to turn off the film. I turned to look at the man beside me. Ryan's pupils were rather light, and what was surging in his eyes were his memories with another girl. He didn't even want to blink his eyes. I thought this farce would end here. But unexpectedly, the surprise was still to come. As the film came to an end and the background music slowly stopped, the door of the private room opened. A girl in a white dress walked in with red eyes. This was the first time I saw this girl named Alaya. She was like the good student version of me. No. Wasn't she dead? How could his lover come back to life? The girl pushed the door open and suddenly threw herself at Ryan, who was sitting on the sofa and was completely stunned. She hugged his neck and kept crying. Ryan, I miss you so much, so much. Do you know how I've lived these years? Do you know? Ryan had also said these words to me. But it was when he was drunk and mistook me for Alaya. Alaya, I miss you so much, so much. Do you know how I've lived these years? It matched up, however. Ryan at this moment was just like a wooden statue. I think his brain was overloaded so he couldn't make any move in time. On the contrary, all his friends were jeering. Ryan, isn't it a surprise? Sister Alaya is still here. She lost her memory in these years and has been receiving treatment abroad. She rushed back to China as soon as she remembered you. We deliberately kept it from you just to give you a surprise. I was like an outsider who was excluded. Everyone's eyes seemed to be saying, the real one is back. You little mistress, get out of here quickly. I began to understand that this was a scheme planned by his group of friends. It was a surprise for Ryan but a conspiracy for me. However, I have a problem. I can't stand being bullied by others. Not even a little bit. I grabbed the back of the girl's neck and lifted her up. Excuse me, you're sitting on my boyfriend's lap. At least for now, he's still my boyfriend. The girl was stunned and looked at me with red eyes. I definitely couldn't cry as gracefully as her when I cried. It's a wonder that my brother could put up with me back then. I put her on the ground gently, tidied her clothes for her and said casually. And then, actually, your Ryan has been treating me as your substitute all these years. It's really a lousy thing to do. This man's character isn't that good. Sister, you should think twice. I put my hand on Ryan's head and rubbed it. Besides, I just regard him as my doggy. Look, his group of cronies are ready to bark at me like dogs. Isn't it degrading? I put my arm around her shoulder and finally smiled at her. When I turned around to leave, Ryan, who had been in a daze all this time, suddenly reached out and grabbed my wrist. He hung his head and said in a hoarse voice, "Don't go." I shook off his hand. I walked quickly in the corridor with my bag in hand. It seemed that I wanted to run away. Indeed, the atmosphere in the private room made me sick. I made a fool of myself. I really hate this feeling of being betrayed and ridiculed by everyone. There used to be someone to comfort me, but now there isn't. It was raining heavily outside. I stopped in front of a huge commercial billboard and stared at the glamorous female star on the poster. She was my brother's rumored girlfriend, that rich family's daughter. I heard that she had recently entered the entertainment industry. I opened my phone and sent a location to a number. I didn't wait long. A Maybach drove through the rain. I knew he would come. He always listened to me so obediently. If he didn't come, I would bury him tomorrow. Jason stood in the rain, smiling at me while holding an umbrella. Why, can't you live without your brother? Who bullied you again? You're such a grown-up. When will you stop crying? I suddenly felt very annoyed. I rushed into the rain and pushed him down. He was a grown man. It wasn't that easy for me to subdue him, but he always subconsciously protected me. The umbrella fell to the ground in the rain. He was lying there and I was sitting on him. His eyes were really beautiful. The expensive fabric of his suit was mixed with the mud stains on the road. I didn't know if the hundreds of thousands of yuan watch on his wrist was broken. I just heard him sigh. Why are you still like a child? Good. Jason was dirty now. My hands were around his neck. You're not allowed to find a girlfriend. I don't want to have a sister-in-law. I want to see my brother cry. But he smiled again, just like when I blindfolded him in high school. He said, Aliyah, I'm your brother. It's natural to marry a sister-in-law. I was taken home by Jason. It seemed that he had changed houses again. This time, it was on the edge of the second ring road, very close to his company. When he was so poor that he could only afford my tuition back then, he said to me, Aliyah, when I buy my first house in the future, I'll put your name on it. However, it was I who was desperate to leave him back then. So his current house has nothing to do with me now. During the last school-wide physical examination in my sophomore year, I got an extremely shocking piece of news. I had cancer. The cancer cells have spread. You won't live long. The doctor with glasses shook his head and said with a bit of pity. I was only 19 years old at that time, as innocent as a blank sheet of paper. I didn't know that the school-organized physical examination had a large number of people. Nor did I know that the physical examination report didn't even have the hospital's seal and didn't count. All I knew was that my brother and I didn't even have 1,000 yuan in total. To treat my illness, my brother would have to sell half of his life. So I went home, threw my school bag on the ground, and said to him, Brother, I'm not going to school anymore. Don't pay my tuition for next year. I've taken a liking to a yellow-haired boy with a tattoo on his arm who rides a motorcycle. I'll go with him tomorrow. Jason scolded me for being crazy, but I still left. He couldn't stop me. How could he stop me? His old and shabby Phoenix bicycle couldn't catch up even if he pedaled until the wheels sparked. Sitting in a Cadillac business car, I felt like I was shouldering the whole world. The reason why I was sitting in the Cadillac business car was that a rich man suddenly came to me. Alas, little girl, you look so pitiful. You're so young and got this kind of disease. Well, I have a sanatorium abroad. You can just rest there in peace. Don't tell your brother. You don't want to hold your brother back, do you? What finally made me make up my mind was that sentence, you've already held your brother back too much. So, I wrote a letter at length. I planned to send it to Jason 10 years after my death. The main idea was, brother, forget me forever. I didn't betray you. It's just that my life is coming to an end. Live well in this world. I cried bitterly when I wrote this letter. I had already imagined that decades later Jason would be leaning beside my tombstone, crying and scolding me for being so stupid. However, as spring gave way to autumn and year after year passed, I didn't die. No. Only then did I realize that something was wrong. Wait. Was it just a coincidence that the doctor and the rich man showed up at that time? How could he know the situation of my family so accurately? Someone set me up. Just to make me leave my brother. So many years have passed. It's not that I haven't thought about telling Jason everything and clearing up the misunderstanding, but I lack evidence. Could I just run over to him and say bluntly, brother, actually, I left you back then because I misunderstood that I had cancer. But now I know I'm okay, so I'm back. This would be even less believable than, I was an ungrateful wretch who wanted to kick you away back then. Now that you've become successful, I'm shamelessly coming back to you. Mainly, I just can't bring myself to lower my pride in front of him. Well, I always feel that I'm supposed to be the one in control over him. How can I bow down to someone who is beneath me? It doesn't make sense. The door of the house opened. I thought it was my brother coming back because he had disappeared early in the morning. But it turned out to be a woman with big wavy curls and delicate facial features. We looked at each other for 2 seconds and she gave a really sweet smile. Are you? Song Alaya? You should call me sister-in-law. I almost slammed the door in her face. Yo-Yo is the daughter of the Yo-Yo family group. She's Jason's rumored girlfriend. I confronted her at the door of the house. She wanted to enter the house but I wouldn't let her. Alaya, are you so ill-mannered? It seems that after marrying your brother, I'll have to discipline you well on his behalf. I looked at her and just wanted to say one word, get lost. But what made me feel even worse now was that she knew the password to Jason's house. I didn't dare to think carefully about what that meant. I don't have a sister-in-law. I looked up at her and said this coldly to her. Well, I'm sorry then. Whether I'm your sister-in-law or not doesn't seem to be up to you. As long as your brother acknowledges it, I am your sister-in-law. She was holding the folder in her arms and tried to bypass me. At the moment when I closed the door, I clearly saw that she suddenly stuck her hand in. Then she let out a cry of pain. I closed the door with quite some force. She crouched on the ground pitifully covering her fingers. I was just about to ask, sister, who are you pretending for? When I saw Jason carrying a bag of breakfast not far away. He raised his eyebrows and looked at the two of us. Jason, why is your sister like this? In the living room, my brother was dressing the wound of that inexplicable woman. I kicked the stool in front of me unhappily. You stuck your hand in by yourself. Don't frame me. Jason didn't look sideways and focused on spraying medicine and wrapping gauze for the woman in front of him. His calm appearance made me so angry. If this woman really became my sister-in-law, I might as well dig a hole and bury my brother. Jason put the medicine box back and left me alone with that woman. Alaya, be prepared for me to be your sister-in-law. When my brother wasn't around, Yo-Yo didn't have that pitiful look anymore. She shook the finger that Jason had dressed very nicely. Otherwise, when I become your sister-in-law, you'll suffer. I sneered and retorted. The password to my brother's house. T020306. It's my birthday. Wait until when this string of numbers becomes yours. Then you can say you'll be my sister-in-law again. Obviously, what I said made her jealous. After a while, I heard her say viciously. Coveting your own brother. How shameless. Jason didn't hear her scolding me, but he clearly saw that I suddenly stood up and pressed Yo-Yo's already injured hand onto the table. Yo-Yo was really good at pretending. She just swore at me and now she was pretending to be in so much pain that tears were falling. I heard Jason behind me. In a flat tone, "Aliyah, let go." My heart suddenly ached, perhaps it was because Jason had been so nice to me before. It always made me feel that he would still protect me like he did when I was 18. In fact, since I came back, his attitude towards me had been lukewarm. I let go of her hand and stared as Yo-Yo showed her hand to Jason for him to see. Suddenly, I thought that every time I brought a boy home, my brother remained calm. But just because he brought a woman home, I was so angry that I almost exploded. He really didn't like me. TSK, Jason, if this woman is really your fiancée, then you really have bad taste. I shook my own hand. I seldom called his name in such a tone. He was stunned for a moment. He frowned and called me, Aliyah. I don't have a sister-in-law. I interrupted him and said softly, I don't have a brother either. I'm a very despicable person. I like to push people into a corner to see if they love me or not. 3 seconds after I said that, my brother couldn't hold it in anymore. He rubbed his brows and his voice was still calm. She's not your sister-in-law. She isn't now, and she won't be in the future. Hearing this, Yo-Yo turned around and looked at him in disbelief. Jason's gaze was open and aboveboard, and he shrugged. Yo-Yo grabbed her bag and rushed out almost in tears. I won again. In the battle for Jason, I had never lost. Satisfied? The man leaning on the dining table tilted his head to look at me. The smile on the corner of his mouth was exactly the same as when I pestered him to buy me ice cream when I was a kid. Originally, it was not easy to get the internal information of the Yo-Yo family. Now it's estimated that I'll have to put in more effort. My brother stretched out his legs and touched the tip of my slippers. Aliyah. You're really my ancestor. I didn't know that Jason was approaching Yo-Yo to bring down the Yo-Yo family. I also didn't know that he had such big ambitions and that he wanted the whole Yo-Yo family to collapse. Why does the Yo-Yo family have to be destroyed? I looked up at him and asked. He tilted his head and casually curled the corners of his mouth. Because they deserve it? My brother's thoughts were always the hardest to understand. Ryan called me 20 times. I was afraid that he would keep calling until my phone exploded, so I answered it. Why didn't you answer my phone? His voice was as hoarse as if he had smoked 20 cigarettes in one night. I pursed my lips. Why should I answer your phone? Aliyah. You're my girlfriend. I thought about it for a long time last night. I know you still love me, but it's also hard for me to let go of Aliyah. So, are you willing to share me with her? The lollipop that Jason stuffed into my mouth this morning almost fell out. I exclaimed in surprise. Say that again? He took a breath over there and repeated slowly. Aliyah, last night I discussed with Aliyah for a long time, and she's willing to share me with you. Are you willing? I'm willing to go to H. I didn't say the word hell. Because my brother's handsome face suddenly flashed in my mind. Aliyah, don't swear. Stop. I interrupted him. Watch your language. I'm your ex-girlfriend. He paused and asked, why? What why? Aliyah, you still love me. Don't break up with me, okay? Love? I carefully thought about my feelings for Ryan. It was no different from my feelings for the Papillon in the orphanage when I was 12. So I replied to him. The love was just an act. We're not close. Hang up? Actually, the reason I dated Ryan at first was that I knew what kind of person he was. I wasted his time just because he was a jerk because I was also a jerk. Even my feelings for Jason I knew. They were all very abnormal and ugly things. My feelings for Jason are neither like nor love. I just want to lock him up. To see him cry, to see him flustered, to see him so desperate that he has no way out. This thought is too abnormal, so I can only bury it deep in my heart. What are you thinking about? My brother leaned on the steering wheel and looked at me. His eyes were so innocent. He definitely didn't know how I was abusing him in my heart. Take this with you. Jason handed me a small gadget that looked like a USB. I'm going to deal with the Yo-Yo family. This is a signal transmitter. I'm afraid you'll be in danger. The USB was lying in my palm and he fiddled with it a little. Press this button, and it will send your location to me. I looked up at him. Why not just install a tracker on me? He smiled. What, do you want to be monitored by your brother 24 hours a day? Well, it's not that it can't be done. But it's me who wants to monitor him 24 hours a day. I put that USB into my pocket. I heard him say softly. Aliyah, I don't want to force you to do anything. I just want you not to leave me. Don't leave your brother behind again. Obviously, it's always been him who left me behind. Jason can calculate everything and always wants to make everything the safest. Actually, I really hate his calm and confident look. I just want to see him angry. I just want to drive him crazy. I'm not normal either. I studied journalism in college. After returning to China, I wrote articles for a local newspaper. I don't have a deep understanding of the business battles that Jason talked about. But according to my colleagues in charge of the finance section, the Chenan Group is joining forces with other local enterprises to besiege the Yo-Yo family. My brother has made his move. My relationship with him hasn't actually improved. Our chat record still stopped at that 781 yuan last time. He didn't contact me, and I didn't want to contact him either. Sister Song, I've arrived. Are you here yet? The voice on the phone pulled my thoughts back. I nodded and replied that I was almost there. I've been working on the section about underground power and sex transactions. The person on the other end of the phone is my interviewee this time, this little girl. It said that she has been sold 3 or 4 times already. The first time? They approached me on the pretext of providing me with tuition fees. The second time, they threatened me with photos. After that, it was even worse. The little girl's voice gradually became choked with sobs. I was lowering my head to take notes while, for no reason, thinking about what happened in the orphanage before. These gray industries almost always have protectors and there's a lot of resistance in investigating them. But I've never stopped investigating. Perhaps I saw my own past in them. If I hadn't been pulled out by Jason, then I would also. Sister, can you come home with me? I have a very important piece of evidence that I want to give you. The little girl looked at me timidly. Those who can find us investigative journalists and provide evidence must have summoned up a lot of courage. I tried my best to smile gently. Sure. You lead the way. The little girl's home was really remote. It was almost in the urban village area. The environmental hygiene and public security were both very poor. I had never been back here since I went to university. I didn't expect that after so many years, this place was still the same. She led me around several corners and during that time, there were fewer and fewer pedestrians on the road. We walked with our heads down and soon I realized that something was wrong. There don't seem to be many residents here, right? The little girl suddenly quickened her pace and I had to chase after her. Hey, you! Sorry, sister. She stopped in front of a dead-end alley. I finally managed to get my normal life back. They threatened me with my nude photos. I had no choice but to do this. I immediately understood what she meant by that. Several big men walked over from the outside and slowly forced me into a corner. The little girl didn't bring me here to provide me with evidence. She lured me here. The moment one of the big men stepped forward and pinned me down, I remembered the button in my pocket. As long as I pressed it, my location would appear on my brother's phone. Then my brother could come to save me. However, I thought of what Yo-Yo said to me that day. Coveting your own brother. How shameless. I must be crazy. The thought of my brother crying in a panic made me refrain from pressing that button. A bucket of cold water completely woke me up. I wanted to adjust my posture and found that my hands and feet were tied up. A video camera was set up in front of me. Then I saw a pair of straight boots. Yo-Yo was sitting opposite me with her legs crossed. She had changed a lot in just a few days. She seemed to have lost the vitality she had on TV. Now her pale face looked rather haggard. I curled my lips. Your makeup is smudged. Bitch. She cursed at me. I should have let you die directly when I sent you abroad back then. When she said this, my heart suddenly skipped a beat. I had been investigating the mastermind behind the incident when I was tricked into leaving my brother back then. And unexpectedly, I found out here that it was her. Yes, it was me. I took a liking to your brother back then, but you, as his sister, were really in the way. Do you know that your brother couldn't stop talking about you back then? He was like a lunatic. You were so annoying, so I bribed a school doctor at your school. After all, wasn't it because you were stupid? You blindly believed that you had a terminal illness. I thought that after you and your brother had such a falling out, you would never want to see each other again in this lifetime. I really should have just killed you. As she talked, her eyes became fierce. Otherwise, there wouldn't have been so many troubles. Your brother wouldn't have found out that I was behind everything and then taken revenge on us. My brother knows. My brother has always known that you guys were behind my leaving him back then. I couldn't hold it in anymore. I suddenly stood up and wanted to go forward to ask her. As a result, the hemp rope cut into my flesh and the pain made me gasp. She raised her eyebrows and looked at me a bit surprised. Yes. Stop pretending in front of me. The reason your brother has been concentrating on dealing with me these days is because of you, isn't it? I wanted to punch the stool but ended up hitting my wrist again. He had known everything clearly all along. Why didn't he tell me? Why did he keep his distance from me? Was it fun to watch me struggle like a fool? Was my brother just playing with me? It seemed that my emotional outburst finally amused her. She laughed and changed her seat. What's the matter? Why are you so excited? Do you think your brother can come to save you? Don't worry. No one can find this place. Oh, I threw the tracker in your pocket into the river for you. She got up, adjusted the camera, and pointed it at me. Song Alaya, tell me, how many men do you think you can endure? I stared at her blankly and raised my head as much as I could. 100. Her smile froze and she clapped her hands. Really? I hope you can still be so tough when that time comes. Several big men wearing only underpants walked into the room. Are you happy to be filming your first movie? I didn't know if I was happy or not, but she was smiling in a rather disgusting way. I'll send this video to your company group, okay? Oh, by the way, I'll also send a copy to your brother's phone. You don't have parents. How pitiful. Now you're going to lose your virginity too. What's virginity? I interrupted her. It's useful if I care about it. It's useless if I don't. Remember to send me a copy after you finish filming. I'll send it myself. I'll invite everyone to watch it together. Are you angry? At least I can decide what to do with my own body, right? For a moment, she was left speechless by my retort. Then she became angry out of shame. She angrily ordered those big men to come forward. Actually, I really didn't care. I was already dirty anyway. I mean, my thoughts were dirty. The body can be cleaned but the mind can't. I stared at the dim yellow light on the ceiling and thought. Has my brother noticed that I'm gone? Will he be angry? Will he be worried? Will he be annoyed? The door of the room where I was locked was suddenly kicked open. I blinked my eyes. Did he come so quickly? Didn't he really install a tracker on me? Everyone in the room was startled. My brother had brought the police with him. Several people in uniforms rushed into the room and easily controlled that group of people. Then I saw my brother. He almost stumbled as he rushed over. He squatted in front of me and untied the hemp rope around my wrists. He tried several times but couldn't untie it. Then I realized that his hands were shaking. Brother. I called out to him and he was stunned for a moment. Then he suddenly hugged me. I just let him hold me. The smell on him was very reassuring. Perhaps it was because he was my brother that I felt so at ease. Just now, I saw my brother's eyes. They were so beautiful. Too beautiful. When he had hugged me enough and wanted to let go of me. When he was about to leave me, I suddenly covered his eyes. Alaya. He held my hand and called my name softly. But I couldn't look at him. Really, I couldn't. His eyelashes brushed against my palm. But I felt my heart pounding wildly. My brother was so good. Looking. I in his eyes, there was a setting sun and there were all the decadent things burning while holding me. I was afraid that if I looked at them too much, I wouldn't be able to resist hurting him with myself again. In the end, he took my hand away. His forehead gently rubbed against mine. Aliyah, is it fun to torture your brother? Have you thought about how I'll settle accounts with you? I was dragged back to his house by my brother. He wasn't gentle at all. There were several red marks on my wrists left by the hemp rope. Actually, it didn't hurt that much. Do you like lying to your brother, huh? Do you like making your brother angry, huh? Do you like seeing your brother worry about you, huh? I could feel that he was angry. He pulled off his tie and looked at me almost despairingly. Aliyah, why can't you grow up? Actually, I had already grown up. The grown-up me was even more childish and despicable. He didn't understand. There was a faint smell of men's perfume on my brother's tie. He used it to cover my eyes. My vision plunged into unexpected darkness. After being deprived of sight, all my senses were infinitely magnified. I heard his voice. Aliyah, do you know what I'm going to do to you next? Probably. Punish me? Usually, my brother would laugh at this time, but he didn't. For the first time, I realized that he was quite serious. He said. Yes. He pinched my wrists and rubbed them. They actually hurt a bit after being tied by the hemp rope. My brother tied my hands behind my back with something again. He pinched my chin and made me raise my head. Do you know what you look like now? I knew that I must look rather wretched at the moment. I just thought I'd comfort him. Like. I didn't say the word out loud and my brother covered my mouth. For a long while, he didn't make a sound. I felt his forehead resting on my shoulder, shaking. I tilted my head. It was like the tide receding in an instant. Aliyah, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done this to you. Then he untied the thing that was tying my wrists. I pulled off the tie covering my eyes and saw my brother's eyes through a small gap. They were as deep as the sea, always restrained and self-controlled. Aliyah, were you scared? I'm sorry. How could I do this to you? He hugged me in his arms. I'm such a bastard, brother. 27 later, my brother told me to go to sleep. I definitely couldn't fall asleep. I wanted to go to the balcony to get some fresh air. Unexpectedly, my brother was already there. I didn't know that he smoked. Because he had never smoked in front of me before. I stared at the spark of the cigarette flickering at his fingertips. Then he raised his hand, and pressed the cigarette butt onto his own arm. The moment he pressed it, I rushed into the balcony. I knocked him over. He looked dazed. I grabbed his collar. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? His arm was burned. He burned it himself. I didn't even dare to look at the burn mark. I heard his hoarse voice. I let you hurt yourself. It's my fault. It's not your fault. I almost shouted this while grabbing his collar. The moonlight gently lay in his eyes. He stared at me and lifted the corners of his lips to smile. But what else can I do, Aliyah? I don't dare to think about what would have happened if I had been a second late today. But I can't blame you. I'm your brother. Whatever you do is because of me. I had never regretted what I had done as much as I did today. I thought that I had underestimated the meaning of Jason to me. I'm sorry. Why are you apologizing to me? He propped his chin up and smiled at me. I took a medicine box to treat his wound. We sat in the moonlight on the ground. I'm too headstrong. When I applied iodine to his wound, he didn't even cry out in pain. I continued, I won't do such things in the future. I suddenly realized that this is how it feels when the person you care about gets hurt. My head was rubbed by him neither too gently nor too hard. Were you gambling that your brother would come to save you? I was stunned for a moment and then nodded, yes, that's exactly what I was doing. Then leave the future to your brother. Think like this in the future too. Whenever and wherever you are hurt, your brother will be able to come and save you. Many years later, I chased after the moon of that night countless times, only then did I find that the moon looked the most beautiful in my brother's eyes. I put the remaining tools back into the medicine box. Holding my heart that was in a mess, I looked up and asked him, Jason, do you just regard me as your sister? The whole world became quiet as if only our intertwined breaths could be heard. Then he smiled, and the moonlight flowed around the corners of his eyes. Do you think that's possible? Well, then it's okay. I grabbed his collar. In the moonlight, I kissed him. 28 Yo-Yo was arrested. I'm not surprised by this result. She has to bear the consequences for kidnapping you. My brother said while turning the steering wheel. Now he picks me up and drops me off from work every day. He said that I really scared him. She's the easiest one to deal with in her family. Everything she thinks is written all over her face. She's the most suitable breakthrough point. There's internal strife in the Yo-Yo family group now. For a while, no one in her family will come to bail her out. The car drove smoothly into the parking lot. My brother rested his hand on the steering wheel and propped his chin up to look at me. So, Aliyah, do you have anything to tell me today? My brother almost wanted to read my mind. I touched my nose and pulled the corners of my mouth. Well, brother, I've been investigating this section on underground power and sex transactions. You know that this kind of industry definitely has a lot of protectors. I mean, if you have any connections. Suddenly I was tapped on the forehead. Didn't I tell you not to do these dangerous things? My brother had a cold expression. I covered my forehead and looked at him pitifully. But you also told me to be bold and do whatever I want. His eyebrows relaxed a little. I tugged at his sleeve. Besides, brother, I can't just stand by idly. When I see those girls, I think that if it weren't for you, would I become one of them someday? I know that you bankrupted our original orphanage and rebuilt a new one. But there are still many girls like them, right? I've always believed that the duty of a journalist is to expose the shadows under the sun, break the cracks, and let the light shine in. He stared at me for a long time and then sighed. Aliyah, the reason I agreed to let you do this isn't that I approve of your idea. It's because I know that even if I don't let you do it, you'll still do it secretly. Connections? I'll find them for you. Brother only has one requirement. Don't put yourself in danger. If you put yourself in danger again. My brother tapped on the steering wheel. Maybe the light in the garage wasn't good, and his eyes darkened for a second. I'll lock you in the basement for the rest of your life. I'm not afraid of my brother at all. I asked my brother why he didn't tell me the reason for my leaving when he had known it all along. He smiled. Instead, it made you care more about me, didn't it? I'm crazy, and so is my brother. We're both crazy people who try hard to get close to each other but are also afraid of getting close. But it doesn't matter. I'm quite willing to test our relationship with him for a lifetime. Now my investigation has gradually got the cooperation of the police. In early summer, I received a strange call. Aliyah, where are you? The man's voice on the other end of the phone was hoarse. It took me a while to react. It was Ryan. Aliyah, could you please answer me? Don't you miss me? I really miss you. I broke up with Aliyah. Could you give me another chance, please? I want to win you back. I sighed. Actually, in the past, I would have hung up this kind of call directly. But I've changed now. Ryan, do you like me? Yes, 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 Aliyah, are you willing to give me a chance? He seemed very excited. Such an excited tone seemed that he had never used it with me before. Didn't you love your Aliyah to death before? Why did you dump her this time? He was silent. Admit it, Ryan. The person you like is neither me nor Aliyah. The person you like is the identity of an ex-girlfriend. You're just addicted to chasing something that you can't get. Once you get it, you discard it like old shoes. What you can't get is always what you like the most. I had to enlighten him and make him understand what kind of person he was. This was the last gift I gave him. After all, he was really like the Papillon in our yard when I was 12. I hung up the phone, and the story between him and me was over. After all, I've changed. I'll never do such absurd things as finding a boyfriend just to annoy my brother again. 30 Our newspaper office, together with the police, has taken down several dens. The reports I wrote have gradually brought this issue to the public's attention. This year, more former victims have summoned up the courage to provide us with clues. On my brother's side, the business battle has been going on for a long time. But generally speaking, everything is developing in a good direction. On Friday after work, when my brother came to pick me up, he said that he had a gift for me. What's the gift, brother? Is it to tie yourself with a bow and send yourself to my bed? I like to tease him. His calm and somewhat serious look always hit my soft spot. Well, it's not impossible. He took me to what seemed like an unfamiliar neighborhood. Brother, did you buy another house? I followed him into the elevator and asked him. No. I bought it a long time ago. My brother skillfully swiped the card and pressed the floor button. When the elevator door opened, red roses filled the entire living room. I don't know if you'll like it. I'm a bit worried. Is it too cheesy? This was a 3-bedroom, 2-living-room house. The moment I saw the decoration style, I liked it. I liked it for no reason. It was decorated bit by bit last year, and the formaldehyde has dissipated a little this year. Actually, this house was bought 4 years ago. 4 years ago. It was during the time when I left. The first house I bought has your name on it. Aliyah, I missed you so much at that time. I just sat in this unfinished house, drinking while thinking of you. I thought that I had achieved success, but why weren't you here? Then what's the use of all this? Jason really knew how to stab my heart. I heard the girls in the company say that filling the living room with flowers is so romantic. So, I thought that when I brought you here, I should do something. My brother didn't look at me. He slightly hid half of his face in his palm, trying to hide something. He asked me softly. Am I a bit silly? No, it's so beautiful. After taking a bath in the evening, I was bored and started playing with the roses in the living room. There were so many roses. It seemed that I could take some and sell them. Jason was taking a bath in the bathroom. I didn't mean to peek at him. But when he opened the door and I saw that he wasn't wearing a shirt, the tips of my ears turned red. It shouldn't be like this. It really shouldn't. I had seen him in every way before. I rubbed the tips of my ears and smiled at him. I felt even sillier when I showed my teeth like this. I wanted to bury my head in the pillow on the sofa. Then I heard Jason behind me. In a steady tone he said something really shocking. Aliyah, haven't you always wanted to be in control over me? Do you want to do it? My brother wants to drive me crazy. Jason was kneeling on the sofa. His eyes were covered by his tie. His wrists were tied by his tie and tied behind his back. His mouth was biting his shirt and lifted it up. Aliyah, you can do whatever you want to your brother. My hand touched the lines of his abdominal muscles. He seemed to tremble a little because of my movement. In the quiet room the tattoo pen was buzzing as it worked. If I made a move now, I could leave something permanent on my brother's body. I held the pen. But suddenly I found that my evil thoughts about him rose like bubbles and then were popped one by myself. Finally I threw the pen away and untied the tie covering his eyes. I can't do it. I felt that I could never hurt him in my whole life. My brother's eyes were so beautiful, especially when he was in a submissive position. The beauty of hell was nothing compared to this. He laughed. You little coward. Jason, why are you scolding me? Do you have the nerve to do something to me? My brother took the untied tie and tied my hands. Hey, brother? No, are you serious? Stop. I'm wrong. Baby. I felt that he brushed the stray hair beside my ear. It's too late. People always feel that time passes quickly when they are happy. It seemed that I hadn't been with Jason for long. It was snowing. When passing by a shopping mall I heard the music of Merry Christmas. So I went into a store and bought him a scarf in the style of a reindeer. It was a couple style with mine. There was a bit of snow in the yard in front of our house. Jason said that he would go home first and clear it. When I walked into the yard I saw him squatting in front of a crooked snowman putting the final nose on it. Jason, did you build this? It's so ugly. He stood up and raised his eyebrows at me. It's you. It's you yourself. I pulled the corners of my mouth and took out the scarf to put it on him. The reindeer pattern was around his neck, looking strangely cute. I gently scratched his nose. Oh, my husband is building a snowman outside. Why don't you wear a scarf? I'm so worried. Jason looked down at me acting like this and then rubbed my head. It's snowing. Yes, snowflakes were floating in the sky again without our notice. I once asked Jason, wouldn't he be even a little bit jealous when I was with other boys? He said, as long as you're by my side. Just let me be able to see you. This is what I prayed to the Buddha in the temple on the mountain when you were lost. If you could come back, I would do anything. If you got married, if you were with other men, I would watch you from the audience. I would send you some gifts every spring festival, hold your child and teach him to call me uncle. I would spend the rest of my life in the house I bought for you with the you that doesn't exist. The heavy snow fell on us. He raised his head. His eyes were like a boundless snowfield, broken yet delicate. Elia. He called my name softly. If we get snowed on together in this life, it can be regarded as growing old together. Jason. Jason lived too pessimistically. I quietly held his hand and hid it in his pocket. No. What's wrong? If we hold hands and get snowed on together today, we are destined to grow old together.